Okay.
We're trying to get used to some new technology here, so bear with us for a moment.
How about now? I'm getting my feedback. Should I just close it? I'm muted, but I hear myself. And it looks like it's right here. How about now?
Well, I'm trying to get in on this meeting, but they're not letting me in. I'm not hearing anything.
Here.
Here, here, I'm here.
Here. All right. Excuse me, it's my turn. I'm shutting it off.
I want to say 6 to 8 months ago. So I just want to make sure it's on the agenda so that it's noted that it's brought up and that we really would like some repairs. I'm more than happy to help put that together in any way to move it forward because it is an eyesore when you go down to the launch. And actually on the corner there's a big tank. It's all rusted and it's just property that's just been left and it's CCWD's. So
Okay.
if that could be put on the agenda, I'd appreciate it.
Michael, you'll take care of that?
Yeah.
Okay, will do. Thank
Thank you so much.
Mhm. You want to look at mine?
Yeah, we just need to get the speakers.
I
Here's-
does it. Okay, let's practice then. Okay, I think we're all set. Let's cross our fingers. Thanks, you guys. All right, item number 3, the consent agenda. The following items are expected to be routine, non-controversial. Items will be acted upon by the board at one time without discussion. Any board member may request that an item be removed for later discussion. Do I have a motion to accept the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Bertha and Jeff is a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, that passes. So now we're going to move on to new business, and we're going to start with item 4C, update on biosolids composting. Michael, do you want me to do public comment first?
Let me introduce the item first and then we
Okay.
can do that. That's okay.
All right.
So I just want to start with just kind of a little bit of a background and then kind of procedurally what we're at, where we're at and what the agenda item is today. Thank you all for being here. It's great to see this kind of community engagement. A lot of you probably, I recognize a lot of you from the town hall meetings that we've had in Copper. There really isn't any new information since that time. So really what we're doing here today is making sure that the full board has had an opportunity to hear about these issues and for them to hear directly from you as well. So really what started out several months ago is some kind of informal conversations between district staff and a developer. Was the initial conversation is about a biosolids composting facility. So a facility that takes in biosolids that have already been treated. They've been through the wastewater treatment process. So they're really the consistency. One of these days we should just bring a bucket of them in here. Looks like fertilizer, looks like dirt. The problem we have at CCWD that we've talked about for quite a long time is the fact that we have to truck those biosolids quite a ways in order to find a place that will treat them for us. So we've talked about the need for a regional biosolids facility in Calaveras County. At different times, we've considered developing the project ourselves. And it's just, considering all the other infrastructure issues we have, it's never risen to the top of the priority list. But it's a definite need in Calaveras County. It would save cost for us and a lot of other local wastewater agencies. So when we were approached by a developer who wants to develop one of these projects on that would handle all of our biosolids and then some, including the bulking agent that they use, basically wood chips would come from forest management practices, another interest of ours. It's a discussion we were entertaining with looking at multiple sites throughout the county, one of them being the wastewater treatment facility that we already have in Copper, where it kind of took a different route was the developer was also talking to the planning department at the county. The county planning commission decided to hold a hearing to determine whether a project like this, a biosolids composting facility, would be allowed in the public service zoning designation. So not a project specific application. There have been no project specific applications. It was really just a legal land use question. Does this use fit within this zoning designation? I think where maybe a lot of the confusion stems from is the developer submitted as a part of that agenda package as a sort of a conceptual, here's what these types of projects look like, the concept of one of those projects being located at our property in Copper. So I think it gave a lot of people the impression that that's a project that is being pursued and is further along than it actually is, when in fact we're still at very conceptual levels of discussion. No project applications have been submitted, and it's still a conceptual discussion at this point. So, but understandably, there's a lot of interest in whether or not the project's going to happen, and if so, where. So we attended the town hall that the local committee organized. We had our own town hall, and we've been trying to address the issue since then. So today is really just like I said, an opportunity to have the discussion with the full board. There's no action to be taken and no changes, no updates on any project level discussion since the town hall meeting that we had.
So Michael, I have a couple of questions based on what you just said regarding the hearing. So you said the hearing was put together to talk about land use. Were they also tasked with determining if there was a need for it? And then you also mentioned that CCWD was mentioned as, can we use that area? Can that land use apply? Were there any other projects that were listed, or it was just CCWD? And were you approached by this developer prior to the hearing
Yes.
to see if
So
we would be interested?
So CCWD had been having discussions with the developer prior to that planning commission hearing. In fact, we participated in the hearing as well, mostly to answer questions about on the technical side of, what this treatment process is and why it's needed. There wasn't a lot of analysis as to, the actual specific need for Calaveras County, because it really was just a land use question. It wasn't a project specific.
But it's clearly something that would be allowed in public service. The only reason that it would have gone to the planning commission would be because a private company was gonna operate it.
That really I think that was one of the biggest questions. There is some debate. I think I agree with you. There was some debate about, because there's, wastewater treatment facilities are allowed, as we already have. We're already treating biosolids on that property. Wastewater treatment facilities are allowed, landfills are allowed. So things that look a lot like a biosolids composting facility are allowed. The question is,
Previous to us trucking this stuff, 5 counties away, we were dumping it at the Calaveras County landfill.
Right.
And it was, then they came up with regulation that it had to be dry.
Right.
And so we were having to store it at our mini treatment plants, which are all fairly close to neighborhoods, and having problems with that.
Right.
So we've been doing this on public service property.
That's right.
At a different level. I mean,
Yeah.
I forget
So
how long ago, but
it did have a lot to
we
do.
used to take it to the landfill and they used it for daily cover.
Right.
And then they came up with a recommendation, or not a recommendation, a stipulation that it had to be a certain moisture content.
Right.
And so that's when we had started having to pay to take it.
Yeah, and the biosolids we export are pretty dry. We belt press them before they're loaded, but they still have a moisture content that's too high for that facility. That's right. But it is, I think, a big part of the question was whether if it's a private sector development, does that change the calculation as to whether the land use is appropriate for a PS?
So I wish we could have people go to the board of supervisors and ask them, why can't we still dump it at the landfill like we used to, in the cheapest and easiest method and far away from everybody.
Yeah, and that is actually, it's a whole nother aspect of this discussion is engaging with the county, because not only do we have a disposal issue that they're not able to accommodate, but they're reaching capacity at that facility. So there are going to be changes in solid waste handling on the county side over the next few years. And so there may be opportunities for us to address this issue through that avenue rather than having to develop a separate project.
So what kind of contact have you had with the county on this? Anything? I mean, do we have open lines of communication?
Yeah, so it wasn't really until kind of just before that hearing at the planning commission when the planning department decided to move forward with that hearing that we engaged more directly. But since, we have an open line of communication with the new planning director, Gabriel, who's been great, with the land use council at the county. So those, to my knowledge, there's nothing else happening at the county either. There's been no land use application submitted and nothing else moving forward on that side either.
Would you entertain inviting the county whenever we have discussions on this?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I think that's would be very healthy.
Yeah, in fact, Gabriel was at the town hall meeting that we had, and he stood up there with us and answered just as many questions as we did. So.
But they're not here today.
They're not here today, no.
Hey, Russ.
Okay, Michael, you probably remember as well as I do, the meetings that we had with the county 5 years ago, where we discussed having a solid or a biosolids processing operation adjacent to and outside of the facility there at Rock Creek. We had 2 or 3 meetings with the county about that, and then somebody retired and all of the discussion just stopped. So and that's one of the main reasons that I have requested that we get on the agenda for the solid waste task force. What I was visualizing was me and Michael going to that meeting and just seeing where they are, what their thoughts are. I've also had discussions with the gentleman who is in charge of the solid waste facility down there, and reminded him of the same thing that you were talking about, that we routinely, CCWD, like Jeff said, we used to take the biosolids there, and it's used as it's a daily cover that they have to close the top of the cell each day, and Rob Houghton was the director of Public Works at that time, and he liked it a lot. He got replaced by another gentleman who didn't like it at all, and that's when they just simply raised the price that they were charging CCWD that made it more economical for us to haul it 5 counties away than to dump it here locally.
No, they actually won't accept it.
Well, that initially,
The moisture content.
Right.
but initially, because I was on the board of supervisors at that time, they just raised the price so that it was no longer an economic.
Oh, I remember that discussion.
So that they have removed that economic disincentive, and they've just said simply, it's too wet, we won't take it. So,
Right.
okay.
And, oh, sorry, didn't mean to interrupt you. I'm just real quick on that point though, but that is definitely, there's potential there to resolve this issue through that process. And I know Supervisor Fullendorf has been engaged in that and is aware of that opportunity as well. So we'll continue having those discussions with the county.
Okay, I think that it's, it's another one of those subjects where we need to be talking more regularly with the county and solving our mutual problems, I think.
Agreed.
What's the City of Angels problem as well?
That's right. They have an issue there too. It's a lot of the wastewater agencies have biosolids.
Well, that was my question. Who are the other players? Who are the other utilities that would benefit from the biosolids plant being in the county? Murphy Sanitary, Cindy, would you benefit from that?
No.
Where-
I mean, we could at some point in time, but MSD, the bugs that work on theirs, we very rarely have to even clean out our pond. We did it just recently, 2 years ago on our treatment plant upgrade. And the calculated amount and what we actually took out was so off. It was hardly anything to clear out. So
Well-
will we at some point? Perhaps.
Who are the other players that would benefit from, that are also trucking as far as we are?
You know, there's multiple other agencies that are exporting biosolids. So it's I think there's a lot of interest regionally, not just within Calaveras County.
Isn't it more of the plants that are tertiary that have the waste?
So it depends on the wastewater treatment process. Not every wastewater treatment plant is exporting biosolids on a regular basis. Sometimes it's just when you're cleaning out the ponds.
In the MSD, because it's more of a bug, that's how it gets treated. Not totally, but you know what I mean. And so when they're working properly, the sludge excess is at more of a minimum. But could we haul some off at some point? Absolutely. But I think the county was looking at being able to have this available for other counties to use, right? And so
That's right.
that to me lends, you have a lot more to deal with.
That's right. Yeah. And just real quick, one other, I'm a little bit reluctant to mention it because it's so early in the process on this one as well. But there is another potential opportunity that I'm going to go ahead and mention because I'm excited about it.
Another opportunity, is that?
Which is, as the board knows, we're partnered with Phoenix Energy and CHIPS on the biomass power facility in West Point. And we're still working with the developer of that project to determine the approvals that would be required. So there's still some work that has to go into figuring out whether we'll be able to do this or not. But there's a possibility that we will actually be able to handle our biosolids facility or our biosolids at the power plant by mixing them in with the fuel for the power plant and burning it in because it's not actually a combustion. Grade gets on me every time I say burning, treatment power process.
It's a gasification.
Yes, but we actually might be able to mix our biosolids into that, into the fuel that powers that plant, which I think would be fantastic.
Okay, I'm curious about our situation right now. What are we talking about as far as quantity and price on what we have to do?
On what we export, I might defer to Damon a little bit on that one, but
11 tons a week.
11 tons a week.
At what cost, including the trucking?
And what's the classification of that? That has,
So that would be class 2B, I believe. And that's right at 200,000 a year to truck that to Sassoon, Bay Area.
$200,000 a year
Correct.
to truck that.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's an issue and we're
Yeah.
looking for ways, we're always looking for ways to reduce costs. And this is a potential.
so, you, more?
Well, I think I don't like this phrase particularly, but the elephant that's in the room, so to speak, is the community in Copperopolis. All of the communities surrounding and approaching and near where that proposed plant would be are very much in opposition to it being located there. And if it was only coming in and that was the end of the story, but then there's a processing plant and a revenue generation component that it will result in additional traffic coming there to pick up the processed material. And the thought is that in this long cul-de-sac that we refer to as Little John Road, it's a wrong place to put it.
Right.
We haven't had, I mean, this is a public hearing here. We're not going to make any decisions here today, but it's just for the purpose of openly discussing this. But I haven't had a chance to mention to you, you're excited about the process or possibility up in West Point. I got contacted overnight by a significant property owner in Calaveras County that has two properties that I think have excellent accessibility, minimal, if any, impacts on anybody, more centrally located than West Point by far. And what I want to communicate today, if possible, is that all of you folks have come to the conclusion that CCWD as an organization, as a board, that we're focusing on Copperopolis. I would like to make sure that at the end of today's discussion that you understand that my position, hope for outcome today would be to convince you that although Copperopolis is not, it's not going to be wiped off the possible considerations, but out of 100 considerations, it would be 100. There'd be 99 other places that we will look at, and we will not focus on Copperopolis anymore until we eliminate all the other 99.
Let's be clear, we haven't focused on Copperopolis.
We have.
There was a proposal made to us, and we just listened, that's all we've done.
And I would add to that too, Director Thompson, I think it's an important point. But I would also add that if, and this is a huge if, so please don't misinterpret this, if we were to move in that direction, it would only be because we've addressed the issues, the concerns that the community has in a very public way. We would not, I think the perception that some in the public have is that This is something that we had already decided that we were going to do. That's why it was at the planning commission and we're moving forward with it, which couldn't be further from the truth. If we were to reach that decision, it would only be done after public processes. This board would have to make that decision. This is the first time we've discussed this matter in front of the whole board.
We can't make the decision.
We can't make the land use decision, but if it were to happen on CCWD property, the developer wouldn't even be able to submit a land use application without approval from CCWD. And before we could get,
There would be a planning issue.
Right. but before we could get to that point, we would have a whole lengthy public process to talk about all of the concerns that the community has and whether or not we've addressed those concerns in a way that make this project make sense. We wouldn't move forward without going through that process.
I wanted to verify that is the truth. This is the first time I've heard this much detail about this project. And I never heard anybody talking about going to Copperopolis. I knew there was a problem of us trucking and spending a lot of money getting rid of this stuff. But I can see the concern, and I would have the exact same concern if I lived in Copperopolis, and I'd be sitting at this meeting right there beside you. And what Michael just got finished saying is that this has not gone through this process, and this is probably the last place. Director Thomas had just indicated there's 99 other places that are better for this place, for this project, just because you guys are sitting here today.
And
There's nothing going on in Copperopolis.
right, I'll leave it at that. Who am I to interrupt a round of applause?
I'm gonna go ahead and open up the public hearing right now on this item. Is that okay?
Actually, a public hearing.
No, it's.
No, I'm
discussion
sorry.
item.
I'm going to open up for
No.
public comment.
There's and just for clarification, a public
Because I asked
hearing
for it
is
to
a
be so we
legal
could all hear
permit
about
for a
it.
different process. This is just a
And
discussion item.
you guys might have come here with a speech. Please put your speech away. Take your 3 minutes and tell us how you feel. We think we know how you feel already.
I just want to say that one of the reasons why I wanted it on the agenda is I wanted every one of the board members to hear about it. And two of you apparently are now hearing it for the first time. And when I hear that, well, it's not a project, there's nothing to discuss, I totally disagree with that because there's obviously something was started. We were approached by somebody. And I believe before it gets to that point to be a project, we need to hear from you folks. And here we are, okay? So, hello.
Hi, my name is Donald Jensen. I live in Copperopolis, off of Kiva, which is over off of Little John Road at the end, above the water treatment plant. The first thing I want to make very clear is that I have a very clear understanding because when this came forward and it was on the Planning and Zoning Commission, I went and saw them. I talked with them about what this was, what it was, everything, and a conceptual design offered up to CCWD by a private entity to do something. But at the end of the day, in Copperopolis, we're very aware that this company and that is very lucrative for them to be in Copperopolis because their costs are reduced from approximately $13 to $30 million to put a facility in like that to $3 million because of the infrastructure in copper. Secondly, let's be very clear that biosolids exist there, but that's beyond what this is. This is taking biosolids and turning it into fertilizer. And I don't know if you know what that looks like, but we've looked at some biosolids facilities and initially with the zoning commission, it was proposed as an open air fertilizer processing plant. Okay, that means they were going to be turning it out on 43 acres, turning it over, running it, everything like that. The EPA has looked into biosolids because it's becoming more and more an issue and a problem. There are two chemicals that are produced, the PFOA and PFOS in biosolids. These two chemicals are right now under investigation with the EPA on how they do affect people, humans, and the environment. That has been ongoing since 2021. The EPA has not finished their investigation of that. The problem with copper, besides the traffic and the things that we all see, is that number one, this is the biggest investment of our lives, is our homes there. We see this as let's say what biosolids is. Biosolids is human manure and urine and the moisture taken out of it and cleaned up and left up as a composting facility to be able to turn into fertilizer. So biosolids is just a different name. So when I'm buying my property or selling my property and I go, biosolids, what is that? Well, it's a giant fertilizer facility. That affects my value of my real estate value. I don't care what anybody says. And that's the way we feel. So that being said, I have been working in fact finding and everything like that. We will be putting a petition together in Copperopolis that is an informal petition, just like this is an informal design, to let you know how we feel. And we will be submitting that to you as soon as we are done getting that done. And it will be going on at the end of the month and the beginning of November. So it'll be going on there. You'll be aware of, there'll be signs, there'll be different stuff and people setting out polling and little polling booths to collect informal signatures of residents only and submitting that to you.
We're gonna have to keep an eye on the
Okay.
3 minutes if we
I'm
have.
not-
one.
that was
That-
just for clarification of where we're at. So that was for me.
Thank
from you
you.
guys. Thank you very much.
Is there some way you can monitor the time, or do I need to do that? I can do it. There's a lot of you, so we're just gonna monitor it and we'll see how that goes.
I will do my very best to be as brief
Thanks.
as possible. I will try not to stutter, and that will reduce my time. I am Suzanne Davis. I live in Copperopolis.
Didn't work for across from commercial.
I totally understand why you need the revenue. I took Tom Hofstra's water resources class, and we went through how the entire water treatment plant is done. So I understand why you need the repairs, why you need this, why you need that, this and everything that was mentioned at the last meeting. However, one of our neighbors posted an article by the Sierra Club and the Ecology Center. Yes, that's correct. And I made a printout of the 110 pages and gave you all
Thank you.
a copy of this. So a little bit of homework here. Wanted to get page 4 back. Hold on. And I thank my friend here who mentioned the polyfluoroalkyls. There are 33 of them, and they are all forever toxins. And that is dangerous for us. The study was done in Maine, Massachusetts, and Michigan. The study was done on the fish. And what they found is there was 1,000 times more toxins in the fish with those forever toxins than what's even allowed in our drinking water. There is also a list of other fertilizers which use biosolids, and they're all labeled eco, natural, and organic. And when you use these on your home gardens, you're poisoning your food. You're literally poisoning your food. So anybody that read that now knows what fertilizer not to buy. And one of them is going to be yours. I'm not buying it. My neighbors aren't going to buy it. You know, you're going to have to ship it somewhere else to market this stuff. I'm also extremely concerned about the proximity of the plant in Copper, if it does go there, to Lake Tolek. That's our drinking water. And so anywhere in our county where you plan to put one of these or possibly put one of these, it really needs to be nowhere near water, period. On page 4, there are recommendations for several types of facilities. One of them is water treatment plants. Is there a plan to capture those PFSAs?
We're gonna have to stop you because the 3 minutes are done, but I think that might be a good.
But that's good. That's about,
You know.
Yeah,
that's about where I am.
Yeah.
and I can address that briefly. I
Can I
mean,
go and sit down while you do that?
Yes.
oh, please do. Yes, yes, yes. No, and thank you for the information. So PFAS is a huge issue
Yeah.
in the water industry right now, and not just water, but in environmental regulation right now. Partly because we're still becoming aware of the hazards involved. It's incredibly difficult to test for. And so the State Water Board, California is way ahead of the rest of the country in being the first to implement testing standards for PFAS. And we're still trying to figure it out. I can't guarantee there's none in our wastewater stream, but we are pretty fortunate where we are that there's not a lot in our water, and then the typical sources of PFAS aren't up here. So it doesn't mean it's not a concern. It's going to be heavily regulated by the EPA and by the Water Board going forward, and we'll be subject to those regulations. But I think as far as we're not in any of the hot spots that are really focused on that issue.
All right. Here we go. Hello.
Hector Vega. I'm a resident of Copperopolis and Copper Valley. I'd like to thank you for your comments there. I appreciate it. That's something that I think we all want to say as well. And one thing that was said that gave me great pause was the fact that we sit number 100 on I know it's just a number out there. We're 100 on a list of 100. How many of those 99 other places have you had this pre-discussion with? Have you approached so far? If we're 100 and we're sitting here today, that should be of great concern to everybody in this room that lives in Copperopolis, okay? The fact of the matter is that we do not want this plant at all. We don't want to take everyone's waste in Copperopolis. Calaveras County is a large area. As you mentioned before, you know a couple people already. Start there. Take us off your list. We don't want to be there. And I will tell you this, and I'm sorry, I'm getting emotional because we own a home there, and it will affect our values, just like the gentleman said earlier. And I'm not about to get affected by somebody else getting gain and getting a profit, making money off of us while we take it in the shorts. You guys are all profiting and having a grand old time. Not going to happen over here. And I will tell you this, I will take it upon myself to get everybody, I will knock on every door in Copperopolis to make sure that this developer doesn't put that project in Copperopolis. I guarantee you that. I guarantee you, and I will die trying, and I will take this thing down by myself if I have to. I will get everyone involved, and it will end. I promise you that. If I go down swinging, it's gonna be nasty. I can tell you that much. Okay.
Don't talk about swinging.
You know what? No, and I mean that metaphorically. I mean that metaphorically. Okay. Okay. No. But I mean it metaphorically. Okay. Understand? Yeah.
All right, we're good.
It's just metaphorically. Okay. Just please. Okay. It's metaphorically. I'm saying I'm going to fight to stop this. And again, it's not physical, please. Okay. If everyone can understand that, it is going to be legal if it has to be. I just don't. This is not right. Okay, guys. This is not right.
Did you hear the first part of our
people too.
meeting?
Sorry?
Did you hear the first part of this agenda item?
Yes. I did hear that.
Okay.
I did that, but I wanted to
You
be,
still came up here and did this?
I wanted to be
It's all right.
clear.
It's public comment.
I want-
So I just want to,
I'm allowed to make a comment. Am I not? Okay.
No, you are.
Okay, so I mean, I stated what I wanted to say, okay? And I say this respectfully, okay? So thank you. It's not, and it was not a threat. I'm just saying, this is how people feel in Copperopolis. This is how people feel. And this is how upset we get when we discuss it with each other. This is how upset everyone gets, okay? When we have our conversations with each other. So thank you for your time. I apologize if I came off got a little excited about it, but you'd be excited too. If you lived there, you'd understand how I feel. I don't know which one of you live there, okay? But
Thank
for your
you.
time.
Thank you, Hector.
just to briefly address the question, I think there was a question in there regarding whether this specific project is on a list that others aren't. And I know that wasn't the intent of your comment, Director Thomas, but the hearing that was at the Planning Commission had nothing to do specifically with, although I can understand why you'd be or confused by what was in the agenda packet. But it had nothing to do specifically with our property at the end of Little John Road. It was a zoning question which could apply to any property zoned PS anywhere in the county. It wasn't specific to that location.
But it's pretty clear that if a facility is going to exist in Calvert County, it will be not on somebody's private property unless they rezone it to public service.
Or, well, there actually are other zoning designations, so it could be a manufacturing. There's a couple other zoning designations where it could fit.
So, but it will not be in a residential area.
No,
near
it
residential
would not be
area.
in a
It'll be
residentially
in an
zoned
industrial or
property.
public service, most likely,
That's right.
if it even happens at all.
That's right.
Okay, and there's more to come at some point. Do we have any other public comment? Anybody want to say anything more?
I
Here.
do.
Aye.
My
Okay, let's finish right here in the office and then we'll go on to online people's.
I want to thank you for having this hearing. And my name is Al Segala. I live in Copper Cove. I'm also a real estate broker with 50 years experience. And I'm semi-retired now, but I'd like to address some points that were brought up. If there was a facility fully approved and checked with facts, not emotion, I don't think it'll affect property values at all. Just as right now, there's a sewage facility there that does not affect property values. People are glad to have the sewage. Also, I have chickens and I have 2 compost bins. And I understand how the process of compost works. It's a good thing. I use the compost in a greenhouse that I have and I grow veggies. And which is a good thing. So there's benefits and there's potential danger. If we, with a cool head, can look at the potential danger and see what it really is. Not emotion, just facts. And then look at what the benefit to the ratepayers, I'm also a ratepayer, are. If we can do that, then we'll be doing our job. And this is what I would expect from the board of directors of a water company, is to use cool head, use only facts, have full disclosure, it's sunshine, and you'll have a good outcome. I don't know any other way to express it. Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you, Al. That was nicely said. All right. Any other public comment here in the building? All right. What about online, Rebecca? You want to go ahead? and-
I'm on the phone. Am I able to make it?
Okay, go ahead.
Yes, I just noticed an article, if anybody's interested, under the Victorville Daily Press. It's regarding a biosolids plant run by Synagro. That particular plant had a fire that started, I believe it was May 31st, and it actually burned for 3 months. They, at this point, are trying to cease them receiving any more sewage sludge there. They are offering neighboring communities air filters to help purify their air due to the smell and the smoke. So I can't imagine we would want anything like this anywhere near or around Copperopolis.
Okay, thank you. Michael, can you guys look up what she just talked about at Victorville Daily Press and maybe send that to us, our board members, to read,
We'll see if we can track it
find
down.
it or something? Okay. Any
Oh,
other,
there are several articles on there. It goes back to, well, I went back to May. So there's several articles, and the most recent one is the most telling.
okay, thank you. Anyone else online want to make a comment? I'm
I'm on the
seeing-
phone with a comment.
Okay,
My
go
name is
ahead.
Linda.
My name's Linda Mormon. I live on Arrowhead, which is 2 streets over, in direct line of sight of the current plant. And I have someone just mentioned they would die fighting to make it stop. I'm allergic to sulfur. So what we're talking about is increasing the sulfur. The likelihood is extremely high in the air and in water, which can be, if a fire started, odds are high it would kill me. I have no natural defenses to sulfur. So my question, I guess, is, so what happens to me? Do I move? Do I have to leave? My body can't take the sulfur. I just can't. I go in the hospital. I'll stop breathing.
We don't want that. Thank you for your comments, Linda.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone else on the telephone that wants to make a comment?
I have a question. I'm in Saddle Creek, so I'm a concerned citizen. I heard in a previous comment that they would not allow such a facility in a residential area. However, if this were to come to fruition, you would allow transport of not only the raw material, but any additional components required to process this matter, as well as the finished goods in and out of a residential area. So that kind of conflicts itself to me. And I think that's why most of us are here. So I need, if this were to get any further down the road, you should consider that, the fact that there's two definitions here, one for the developer and then one for the residents, and they're in direct conflict with one another.
So just to briefly address the land use questions, the comment we made was that it could only be located in zoning designations where a use like that is allowed, which it is on a public service zone, the way we have our wastewater treatment plant out there. The specific impacts that many of you are talking about, including traffic impacts on residential roads, all of that would have to be studied and evaluated, and to the extent there are negative impacts, mitigated during the review process of a project like this. So all of that would be very transparent, and there'd be plenty of opportunity for public to comment during that process if there was a project to evaluate. Right now, we don't even have a project to evaluate to reach those determinations.
And that will be evaluated by the planning department. Calvert County.
Most likely the county would be the lead agency on a project like this. We would be if it's on CCWD property, which is again a big if, we would be very closely involved in that process.
But
sometimes
not
we
in
are.
regards to the traffic. That would be,
No.
they would
Right.
have to do a traffic study.
That's right.
The developer would have to do a traffic study, and there would be a lot of public input on that.
That's
That would
right.
all be handled by Calvert County Government Planning
That's right.
Department.
So that would all be, they would be the lead agency handling all of that. Sometimes we are the lead agency, depending on what the project is. But in a project like this, which is much bigger than what CCWD is doing, all of those impacts would be evaluated during the county's
Yeah.
approval process.
So I want to say is, I hear you saying there is no project, but there is a project in the plans. Now, is it with CCWD? That's the big question. And I hear you saying that the public is going to participate. Let's bring up just traffic. So the traffic section is going to be held in this public hearing, and they're going to say, we don't like all the traffic. You have 300 people there, let's say, saying no. And then your response was, well, they mitigate that. So is the mitigation saying we need 700 people to tell us it's too much traffic, or does 300 enough 300 to say it? Or we could say, okay, we'll fix it. They'll only drive there at 2 o'clock in the morning or something. I just feel that there is a project trying to move forward. Where it is, we don't know, but I personally wouldn't want it to wait until everybody had all these things fixed and then it comes to the public to say
It would
what,
not
yes
work
or
that way.
no?
It would not happen that way.
I don't want that.
It wouldn't happen.
Okay, thank you. So
It
we
would
have-
not happen that way. It legally cannot happen
Yeah,
that way.
it's just-
When we talk about a project, what I'm talking about is a project that has been defined adequately enough. So before you can even start the environmental review process, before you can even start traffic studies, you have to have a project with a specific location that is defined with enough specificity to be able to evaluate exactly what the impacts are. That's what I mean by when I say we don't have that kind of project in front of us right now.
Most likely, this would require environmental impact.
Very good chance that it would, and there'd be a lot of review and mitigation. And when I say mitigation, it's not a question of how many people are opposed to it or not. It may be, and again, totally speculative, but if that project were to move forward, they may say you need to widen Little John Road and repave the whole thing and add a bike lane. I don't know. I'm just throwing out potential.
But how would that make them feel?
I'm not saying that's what's gonna happen. That's what.
All right,
I'm just saying
let's-
that's the type of work that happens during an environmental review process. So all of the impacts that are the concerns that are raised right now, the county or us, whoever the lead agency is, legally required to respond to every single substantive comment that the community submits in the project. So if the community says there's too much traffic or the road's not adequate to handle this kind of traffic, legally, the environmental review process has to address that issue. And if it's not mitigated beyond a level of significance, they have to make findings to overcome that challenge.
Okay, so I'm gonna go online for a minute. We had Steve with his hand up. Steve, did you already talk? Or are you ready to say something? Oh, that was him talking? Okay, is there anybody else on the telephone that wants to speak real quickly?
Yes, Sydney Babros.
Cindy, okay. I'll get to you.
Hi, Sydney Babros, Copper Valley Golf Resort. I have, first off, I was wondering why the roads are all being paved, you know, from 120, 108. Little John, I thought that was out of the blue. I definitely, you know, investing and moving my way up to buy a home that's good for my family and to retire there and to have to lose everything that I put into it. It's not going to happen. No one has ever addressed that. I've gone to the CHP in Jamestown for how many 18-wheelers have gone off the bridge, and we all know that's happened. What if one of these trucks, if they're 15 a day coming in and going out, what if one of those go into the water? Oh, sorry, you have no water for drinking. Your wildlife is going to die. Your tourism is going to die, and so is your freaking town. And when you have these biosolids, there's a 503 rule. There is a large list of chemicals that are in there, and it's in sludge. And do you know when this is all composted, how they can sell it to farmers? But the farmers have to make a log of when they put it on their property for 5 years. Why is that? Because of what's in it. They have to wait for 38 months if you're going to put it on public golf courses or playgrounds or in ballparks, because they have to make sure the toxins are not going to permeate into humans. The same for cattle ranchers. There's a waiting period for that. For the farmers who buy it for do our crops, there is 3 different categories. Is your crop up in a tree? Okay, then you only have to wait 4 months. Is your crop touching the ground? No, you have to wait a lot longer than that, all the way up to the potatoes and things like that that are underground. And the farmers are required and regulated every day. They have to make a journal of what is happening to their property. Is that something that we want here in Copperopolis? Hell no. And also, what happens when it rains? Have you ever been to Kingstown? When it rains, it smells horribly. And it also, you have pathogens. Pathogens are carried by mosquitoes and flies. And you can't tell me there's not going to be one mosquito or a fly over at this plant. it carries the diseases. Then it's transferred
All
to
right,
humans.
Cindy.
It's transferred to our regular animals also.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but your time's up and we're going to get to some others. Thank you for your comment. Anybody else online or on telephone? I'm sorry, what's the name?
Stephen?
Stephen, go ahead.
Hi, thank you for taking my comments. Well, first of all, I appreciate this discussion and I'm glad for your disclosure here. But, you know, earlier you'd suggested that, hey, you know, if there were 100 possible places, Copperopolis would be number 100. I should mention that I'm off of Kiva Court in Copperopolis, and I would rather not be on the list at all instead of being in the 100th place. Because if there are 99 other places, you know, it's going to be very, very difficult to keep track of all of this. And then I'm pretty sure that it's easy to eliminate 99 options due to one technicality or another. And next thing you know, you're no longer the 100th place on a list, but now you're the top of the list. So I think as residents of Copperopolis, we'd feel much more reassured if we actually were not on the list at all. Regardless of the position, just if it's not an option, how do we get there? Or when are we going to know that we're in that place, that we're no longer considered? And so we can just rest assured at that point.
So just to clarify, because this is the kind of thing that gets legs somehow, and there is no list, right? We don't have a specific set list of locations. We're entertaining, like I said, for years, we've been entertaining discussions about where the best potential solution is to the problem that we have. And that'll continue to be the scope of our discussion, but there's no list of projects or specific locations that we've narrowed it down to.
And if there's a project, there should be a list, I would imagine, and they could find out at that time if there is such a thing.
It would, like I said, it would be a very public,
And that'll be
transparent
the only
process.
time we can take action,
Right.
Yes.
because there is no project. We have nothing to take action on.
Right.
This is not a CCWD.
Okay, so here we go. So thank you, Stephen.
I have a question for clarification.
Go ahead.
The listing is, again, it's metaphorically, I understand 100%. Like you said something, I just want to make sure it's clear for my information, is that private company cannot apply to use CCWD land from the Planning and Zoning Commission without the approval of CCWD.
That's correct. So the planning department wouldn't accept a land use development application without approval of the landowner. So if it's CCWD property, a private developer could not go to the county and submit an application for a project on our property without our approval.
And that approval come from this.
From the 5 members here.
That's
Through
right.
meetings, and we would be able to speak to that also.
That's
prior
right.
to that.
Very
Correct.
good.
Thank you.
Damon, did you have anything you want to say? No, we're good. All right. Anybody online or on the telephone that hasn't had an opportunity to speak? Say so now. Last chance. Anybody else in here? Okay. So I think we're done with item 4C. I think we've all heard a lot and we really are thankful that you're here to let us know. And Michael, thank you for clarity on items. And here we go. Oh, Russ, you're late.
I'm not late. I just want to also express my appreciation for you showing up. I hope you understand that our wishes are to not have anybody angry at CCWD. We have a mission statement that says that we're supposed to be interactively supportive with the community. And I personally take that very seriously. I've lived in Copperopolis for the last 20 years. And I know, I heard somebody say that if you widen Little John Road, you'll take my property. And I know exactly, I don't know exactly where you live, but there is a section there that the driveways are very steep. If you went in 10 feet, you wouldn't have a driveway. I'm very familiar with what's going on or what has gone on in Copperopolis. And this, please don't misunderstand, this is not meant to be in support of any additional project on our property there. But I've heard at 2 meetings in Copperopolis and then one other mention of this today, that if we have a spill at that facility, like if one of our ponds overflowed, it would flow into Lake Tulloch. That if you look carefully at the topography there, a spill on that treatment facility would not go into Lake Tulloch. It would go down Little John Creek. That old ancient lava flow there that took place millions of years ago stops any water from flowing from that particular piece of land into the lake. So that I'm only saying that to put your mind at ease that we can process and in a 100-year storm or something, we might get a little bit of runoff out of a pond. We're trying to spend $10 million to keep that from ever happening, but we would not contaminate your drinking water. You can be assured of that.
The treatment plant is downstream of Tulloch. There's really no scenario where a spill at our facility would get into Lake Tulloch.
Well, one of the comments was that there's been several trucks ending up in the river, in the lake already off the bridge of Lake Tulloch.
Which is not CCWD jurisdiction. I think
No,
that's the county.
but the amount of trucks that are being talked about bringing in for this development certainly increases that risk.
So that's exactly the kind of issue that would have to be evaluated during a traffic study. And if it were to move forward, they'd have to mitigate that risk.
And I think a lot of our question, for me, is bringing back up the list again. If Copperopolis is even to be considered, but there's way better places, as Russ said, then it seems like there's a lot of, obviously, I'm here for a reason. I heard rumblings of this could happen here, and I'm a resident there, and I don't want it to happen. So I showed up here to voice my concern with that project going forward in Copperopolis.
Yeah, and I think we talked about this a lot during the town hall meeting, but I'll say it again here. You know, CCWD has no interest in pushing a project that the entire community is going to be opposed to and is going to be harmful to the community. We are a part of the community. We wouldn't do it if those outcomes were going to be
we'll see
the reality.
in our community that you're well aware of that.
No problem. We appreciate that. We welcome that interaction. In fact, some of the folks that are here today that have been, that were initially reached out to us because of their concern about this project, we have very open dialogue and look forward to that with you guys too. We have nothing to hide, and we have no interest in pushing a project that is going to be harmful to the community.
Okay.
Thank you, Michael.
Excuse me, may I make one comment? And I just want to congratulate each and every one of you who showed up, because, we're hearing every day about how things are being passed and laws are being written and nobody says anything.
Yeah.
And this is the complete opposite, and I'm so proud of you. Really,
Well, it'd
I
be
am.
nice to have
Thank
it a
you.
full house like this
Yeah.
every meeting or whatever,
Yeah.
So, thank you. Oh,
That's the opportunity.
absolutely.
We appreciate this.
You're very welcome. We're glad you're here. All right, if you're leaving, drive safely. If you're not, enjoy the show. We do have a lot more things to talk about you might enjoy, so you don't have to go anywhere. All right, so we're gonna move on to new business 4A.
We take a little break.
Oh, we're gonna take a recess.
Yeah.
5-minute recess. Recess.
Okay.
All right, we'll help you with it afterwards, though. Okay, here we go. Back from recess, we're going to go to item 4A, discussion action to approve the application for grant funds for the South Fork McCollum River Watershed Vegetation Management. That's Jessica. Hi, Jessica.
Hello. So numerous CCWD properties, our critical infrastructure and surrounding communities are at extreme risk for catastrophic wildfires. And as you all are aware, we've tried on numerous occasions to receive funding, specifically most recently from CAL FIRE, to reduce fuels in our West Point area on our properties. Most recently, when we submitted our grant last year, we were told that that project wasn't large enough. They were looking at a larger scale project for funding. And we are fortunate to be collaborating with CalAm and working closely with Pat McGreevy, who's online right now. And he is writing a grant to reduce fuels in that area. This grant is with the Sierra Nevada Conservancy through their Wildfire Recovery and Forest Resilience Program. And as I said, it will be on a larger scale. The scope of the project is to reduce hazardous fuels on 438 acres. And it will masticate 31 private parcels. And 4 of those are CCWDs, and that will account for 112 acres of our property. So the really neat thing is that this project is going to connect with the Highway 26 wildfire defense system that starts in Lily Gap and runs all the way to Glencoe. And if this project is funded in total, it will reduce hazards to increase hazardous fuels to increase the span to a total of 7.5 air miles. And the large, long scale goal is to do another phase or 2 of this to reduce fuels for another 9 air miles, all the way down to McCalmy Hill. So this is a huge landscape approach to reduce fuels and reduce fire hazards in this the main stem of the McCalmy River Canyon. So CCWD will be the lead entity on this project. And if you have any other project-specific questions, we're happy to talk about it, and Pat can provide more information as well.
I have a question because I'm comparing this to what we did around Abbott's Pass, cleaning the fire break. So what we did was hire Conservation Corps. Is that the way that works, or what will be the labor force behind it?
No, I don't think it's not it would be bigger than that. So I think it would be.
They'll hire a contractor.
They'll hire a contractor. Yeah.
So they will be the.
It'll be like one of the companies that you see, running up down the road that you're behind, like 5 cars behind.
Jessica, currently there's no financial considerations. Will there be down the road? Is it a full grant or do we have to
Not
participate?
that I'm aware of in CCWD.
Yeah, and Pat, correct me if I'm wrong here, but there's not a local match on the grant. There's potentially, some staff time associated with the process, but and feel free to add anything else if you want to address anything else, Pat.
No, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, there's no match. And you get, and the CCWD gets 10% administration fees. I don't have it in front of me what that figure is, but it's pretty substantial.
That's perfect. Thank you.
What's the amount that's in this, in the whole pool of the grant?
The total grant cost?
How much money is in the entire pool that's been?
It's $1,115,667.99.
Nice.
Wait, that's what we're asking for?
Precise.
Let me ask the question.
That's the size of the project. Yeah.
Okay, but I'm asking, how big is the pool of grant funding that's available?
Gotcha.
Not.
So Pat, do you know the SNC grant program that we're applying to? How much funding do they have available?
I'm not sure, but I think it's $25 million.
I'm gonna say 50. Yeah.
And to add to that, we've met with Michael Pickard, who's the director of the Sierra Nevada Conservancy, through other partnerships, and he's talked with us, and he's very excited about this project. Pat McGreevy's met with him on site, and he said that this is a really good project. Applications aren't in, but it should rank pretty high, which is exciting.
Pat, this is Scott Ratterman. Wanted to ask you, what is the timing at this point of boots on the ground and getting started?
the application is due on Friday. If we're successful, the board for the Sierra Nevada Conservancy will make the award around March 5th or 6th, somewhere in there of next year. I suppose that we will have our contractors in place. I think it's May or June. Unfortunately, fire season starts in July. So we probably really won't be going full bore until a year from right now.
Okay, I think we got a motion. I'll second that.
Okay, I have one more question. And Pat, will you be the designee as the agent to conduct all negotiations and to submit and execute all documents?
And you mean from, as far as the CCWD resolution, is that where that's coming from?
No, this is on point 5, CCWD's role,
Yes.
but it says CCWD president or the designee.
That's usually me.
You're the designee. Oh, okay.
Is that good, Bertha?
Huh?
All right, we have a first and a second. Do we have any public comment?
I just have one comment for Pat. Hey, Pat, this is Russ Thomas. Are you there?
Yeah.
Since this is a fire prevention measure, I would submit to you that you should find out a different word that you could use besides match.
Oh, that's funny.
You get it?
Only Russ.
Local contribution?
Yeah. Local match.
Local share?
All right, so no more public comment. So all those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Ayes have it.
No, and just
Thank you,
thank you,
Jessica.
Pat. I know
Thank you, Pat.
Pat does the bulk of the work on these and with his team, and we're just grateful for the work that you do and the opportunity to work with you on it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pat.
Thanks, Pat.
All right, moving on to item 4B, discussion action regarding maintenance and warehouse building project CIP.
That's not done yet.
It's close.
Isn't it
huh?
looking nice though?
I thought it was done.
We have Kevin and Damon. Thank you.
Okay, good morning, board of directors. The district advertised the construction of the tenant improvement projects for our newly constructed metal building. The public bid opening was on September 15. We only had one bid for the project, and that was Plummer Bill Construction, who is the same contractor that did the site improvements in the metal building. So this project is gonna build restrooms, meeting room, storage, office space, and inside the building for the maintenance warehouse or operations and maintenance staff. The work that's covered under this particular contract is framing, drywall, plumbing, the water heater, sinks, drinking fountains, restroom fixtures, ceiling systems, the interior doors and windows, the HVAC split systems, and fire extinguishers. The electrical work inside the building and the electrical services to the building is being done by the district electricians. So all these spaces were designed with both the input from our staff and the board, the engineering committee. So the construction inside the building is going to be a 2-story stick frame built construction. And it's going to be built basically inside the existing bays of the building. So the district received the construction bid in the amount of $667,000 from Plummer Bill. We've been in discussions with them, and we've been able to reduce the price of the project by eliminating some items that aren't necessary for occupancy to $567,450. So as you know, this project was originally bid, you recall, back in 2020 as a complete project with one construction contract. So with input from staff and engineering committee, it was decided to divide this project into multiple different projects over several phases to try to lower the cost. This approach has been successful for the project so far. And we also were able to refine the design. The area that's paved out that's about twice as big as the original paved area. And we also get a second story inside that we didn't originally have.
It's still for saving the cost.
Yeah, for saving the cost. So the district's currently leasing 2 properties over here on Pool Station Road for the maintenance and warehouse building. And those, the rent will be up there around April. So we're asking to try to get this project done this fiscal year. So in order to make that happen, we need $550,000 to complete the tenant improvements. So we can get where we can move in close to the time when the other lease is expired.
And that would be a budget.
Yeah, budget.
Budget adjustment. Okay, there was one sentence in here that this fire sprinklers are not covered by this.
Yeah, that's kind of a design build aspect, and it doesn't really fit into the low bid construction contract that we put out to bid. So we solicited separate quotes on that.
And that's not gonna be expensive or, you know,
Yeah, that's actually figured in this numbers. We figured all the costs to complete it, like the electrical service, the switch gear, the standby generator, all the stuff that our electricians are doing, the fire sprinklers, the security systems, and the
You're doing
fencing
that
on
in
the
the
backside.
house.
That will all be included in the requested amendment. And so then it's kind of two topics of, 2 items for consideration here. We have the plumber build contract for the internal tenant improvements that Kevin described. And then the budget adjustment to provide us the opportunity to complete those other ancillary items to complete the whole project, which isn't just the tenant improvements, it also includes security fencing on the back and then fire sprinklers like Kevin described, and a couple of items.
Yeah,
But
and
it's
some of the
still
things
gonna
that we
come
stripped out of the project to keep the cost as low as possible, including carpet and paint and things that we'll just be able to do ourselves to keep the cost as low as possible.
okay, so that it'll all be still coming under.
So it'll allow Kevin to essentially, thanks for all your project management, Kevin, but essentially manage like act as the prime, if you will, the prime contractor and say, okay, now we've got a contract for the sprinkler. Okay, now we're gonna have a fencer come in and they're gonna do this back security fence. That kind of.
There's $100,000 difference between the 667 and 567, what were those things that were stripped out of it? Are those the things that you just mentioned?
Yeah, so
Fencing,
basically there's
security?
one wall that got removed in the fabrication room that we didn't need. And then there's the paint, the flooring.
Okay.
Different items.
Different items that we could basically hire and have Home Depot come in or whoever, put carpet in and have a little bit.
Was
of
it,
paint.
was that part of the scope when they bid it?
Yeah, that was part of the scope when we did, but there was the issue with the paint, the mill thicknesses on the paint, so the price came in a lot higher than it should have been. So we decided that'd be a good opportunity to take that out because we could do a lot cheaper otherwise.
Kevin?
Couple cases of beer and some.
Right there. So you said, you're looking to get your occupancy certificate, so we can move in and start using it, close that out. And you, omitted some other, projects. Are those going to come back to us later and do later, or you're just going to do it in-house and there'll be more budgeting, I guess, is what I'm asking for in other fiscal years?
Yeah, it'd be probably
complete
minor
this.
cost. I mean, it'd probably be, I would think under $100,000.
Okay.
Yeah, this will be
This should be it,
substantially
give or
complete,
take, yeah.
and we're really just shifting funds into this fiscal year from next is really the
Perfect.
request here.
So do you need 2 separate motions, or should we do one motion? Well, you haven't told us about how you're going to pay for it. Bertha and I know how you're
Oh, yeah,
doing
we
that,
gotta
but
pay for it. We can talk to Jeff, but there was some funds found on interest that, so we don't have to.
Yeah, and just to
Yeah.
clarify too on that point, so this did go to the finance committee on Monday. And
We
we
liked
worked
it.
closely with the members of the engineering committee on it as well.
okay, so do we need a big
So
story
Jeff,
then?
Jeff found some more money?
In answer to your question, you will need 2 separate resolutions. One for the agreement, one for the budget adjustment. As you're aware, we took out loans for water and sewer CIPs. That's helping fund some of our projects. We went through that in June. What's happened is, and this first time it happened on my watch here, the amount of the interest that we're paying on the loan is actually less than what we can earn out in the field. Because investment opportunities are so high, now we're earning much more than what our loan payments are for. When you earn money based on the arbitrage laws and also on our loan documents, any money that you earn in interest has to be used to pay down the interest of the loans. So this money that we're getting was not in interest earnings on the sewer loan, the $10 million sewer loan that's being out there. That's not been budgeted for any purpose. We weren't quite sure when we were going through that. We didn't know too that interest rates would go through the roof at that particular time. What we did know is we needed to pay interest and principal payments on this loan in this fiscal year. We budgeted the use of capital R&R funds. We established that R&R rates to pay for capital renovation and replacement program and also fund any debt service associated with that. That's what's paying for this loan. Now we have this interest earnings that's available to us. We don't have to use the capital R&R money to pay the interest portion of the loans this year. So we can shift that to fund this $550,000. And we're just going to then use the interest earnings to make the interest payments on the loan this year. And that's where there's money coming in that we're getting, these interest earnings. It's going to be used to fund the interest payments, because remember, it can only be used to fund interest payments on the loan. The money in the R&R fund that was going to be used on the interest payments is now going to be used to fund this. So there's really no overall increase in, that's it. I'm really good at that, Jeff. You should know that by now.
Yeah, and which is.
And we're not using reserves at all in any of this. We're not increasing the burden on the R&R fund. So it's actually a little bit less.
And that's really the key point. You know, I felt like this was important. We want to just get it done, even when I assumed that we were going to have to use R&R reserves to do it. And this makes it even better. We're not having to hit R&R reserves to get it done.
All right, can we get a motion?
So moved on the item 1 and item 2, or do I have to?
Do it one at a time.
Item 1 on the building construction.
Second.
Okay. You're keeping up with us, right, Rebecca? And, all right, so all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? However, I didn't ask for public comment.
Can ask.
Ask.
We haven't moved on.
Anybody-
Yeah, ask.
Anybody online? Public comment? All right. All right, should I go back to the vote, or are we good?
I'll make a motion on the budget adjustment.
Second.
All right, all those in favor?
How about public comment?
Any public comment? You would think that would have been done before any of these votes. Any online? Seeing none. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed?
I just want to make a comment that, we should be real thankful that we did borrow that money,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, look what it's
I
done.
mean, the way things are turning, even construction costs may end up coming down. It might have been really great timing, as you've done many times over the years. So I appreciate that.
Thank you, everybody. Jeff?
If I may add one more thing.
Oh,
This is one good news. As we're earning more money earned on these investments, it's moving forward. That means less pressure on the capital R&R funds to pay interest payments in future years. We're going to have enough, even if when we pay the IRS arbitrage rates and some penalties, to probably pay for the interest payments for at least 3 to 5, maybe even more years on that. And that's less money out of our pocket for the R&R fund. So all in all, it's a good thing.
well, how long do we have before we spend that money? Wasn't that an issue?
We're already starting to spend it. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
But
So-
remember, the interest we earn off of this, even though we earn it all within 3 years, we can only use it
Okay.
for future interest payments.
Okay.
So we're saving money on the R&R fund. It's
Brilliant.
always good.
Brilliant.
Which makes that takes it from a really good interest rate to really no
Yeah.
interest that we're
Right.
paying on it. which
Yeah,
is
exactly.
Good as it gets.
Well,
Thank
good
you.
job,
All right,
Jeff
thank you,
and
David.
everybody
Thank
else
you all.
too.
Appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so moving on, there is no old business. Moving on to reports, customer service. Kelly. Hello.
Kelly.
Today,
Good, how about you?
I'm good, thank you. All right, I will keep this short and sweet. It's wonderful to see you all again, but I did just want to provide you the most recent update for customer service. In keeping with, is it coming? Okay, I know you all have copies. Just in keeping with some consistency from my last presentation, I wanted to still maintain some of the analytics related to our call queues, our emails, and our work orders, because obviously this is a lot of what we do in customer service, kind of our bread and butter, if you will, along with the billing side of things. So I wanted to just demonstrate some data as it relates to our activity within the month of September in correlation with some of the data that I presented at my last presentation with you for the months of June, July, and August. And I did just want to note that usually we do see a decrease as we're coming out of the summer months as far as customer interaction is concerned. Summer tends to be a very busy month for customer service just because there's a lot of interaction with move-ins and move-outs. I did mention last time, obviously, we've been putting in meters and we've been billing out in the new system. So lots of questions, lots of inquiries from the public about their bill and their consumption and this new infrastructure going in as well. So it's tapered off a little bit here in September, and I'll be happy to keep reporting on this to you all if you'd like. I think it's a good data point and kind of give some perspective on the ebbs and flows of customer service and how we're interacting with the public. A majority of our inquiries, obviously are related to leaks on our side of the system, customer side leaks, people reporting, what they're seeing out there in the community, and then obviously inquiring about anything, next steps on their side if they're, presented with any sort of leak situation. Like I said, move-ins and move-outs, usage and billing questions, payments. We have quite a few folks that still reach out to us about the customer portal and how to successfully enroll there, also enroll with their auto pay, and then seek leak adjustments for repairs that they've made on there and some reprieve off of some bills.
Is this list in order of number of inquiries or no?
It's not in any order. I do know that, it just depends on, like I said, there's an ebb and flow. So a lot of times we'll get certain requests at certain times. I know when we bill out, we have obviously a lot more people calling in with billing questions and wanting to make payments. So it absolutely, our interaction with the public is based on some of the activity that we produce out of CCWD as well. So, and some, unexpected things. If we have an emergency shutdown or we have to do a flushing, we do hear from folks who may be experiencing cloudy water or sediment on their side, and we're obviously educating them and providing them information on how to move forward from those types of situations as well.
And one of the things that you're seeing is an increase in the number of emails versus the number of calls, which is a big improvement. Yes.
Right. And so
as people get more technically adept.
Absolutely.
As people get tired of calling and not being able to.
Oh, I hope that's improving, Jeff. Don't tarnish my presentation, Jeff. No, that's absolutely something we aim for. And I understand customer service side of things when we're talking about response. That's a big deal. People still want to hear from a person and not, a phone tree. And I absolutely understand how that goes.
It wasn't your doing.
But we are,
Your process.
Right?
we are very proud of where we are now and how great customer service is at addressing that. So I think.
Here, here.
Leaps and bounds.
Yes.
Thank you.
Let's find out.
I might have it.
But I'm sure you've done a great job.
You can cold call us anytime and I'll say that. No, there's like I said last time, there's always room for improvement. And I think I speak for everybody in customer service when I say that's always something on the forefront of our conversations, is making sure that we're helping our customers as best we can. We're dedicated to that and we're focused on improving any way we can. So that's an area that we will obviously keep focusing on, but it is, yes, an increase in emails. And I think as we see more people register on our customer portal, we're going to be seeing a lot more people that have the data there on the portal, and then they're given an option to reach out to us via the portal as well. So I think it's kind of a one-stop shop for them as far as getting the data they need and then being in communication with us or contact with us if they have any questions.
When you meet with your staff,
Mhm.
do you give them an opportunity to talk with you and say, hey, can you share this with the board? We'd like to see the AMI, blah, 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 or whatever. I mean, is that an opportunity out there?
Yes, I absolutely think that anybody in customer service should be able to ask if there's topics that should be able to be presented.
Right, a topic. That's what I
And,
was looking
you know,
for.
and anything that should be shared. I honestly will say that a lot of the time that I've been here has been trying to participate in the AMI implementation and the Encode, or I should say Tyler, I think is what you're familiar with, is our billing software, and trying to make sure that those two programs are implementing well for what we're doing in customer service. So I'd like to be able to take the input of customer service staff and, you know, present topics to you all. I think that's very important. And I'm very happy to be here and be able to talk to you about it. I think it's giving us kind of a mouthpiece and being able to talk about those things. Mhm. And keeping in line with some of the data and the changes that you see there as far as communications are concerned, I did want to just touch on the customer portal and provide an update on that. So not too long ago, we went through kind of a little bit of an update on the portal. It was more kind of aesthetics, if you will, more of an update there to make it a little more visually appealing and maybe easier to navigate for our customers. And we'll be experiencing another change to the portal once we're able to roll out the AMI data on there for customers to be able to access. So that is in the works right now for the smart portal. And we obviously look forward to, you know, the culmination of the AMI project so that we can make sure that the data is clean and ready to be pushed out to customers so they can start using the smart portal and really enabling them to view that data and keep track of their consumption and set alerts to their preference.
Okay, I have a couple of questions.
Sure.
There is a fee, even though, okay, a fee is charged even if you go for a withdrawal from the checking account, right?
So you're speaking of the convenience fees for using the customer portal. So the way that Tyler has this set up is to use the portal, they're viewing it as this is a convenience for the customer. So if you are on the portal and you make a payment and you use your credit card or you use ACH, you know, out of your checking account, there's a $1.25 convenience fee for
Well,
that.
I have a problem with it coming directly out of your checking account. Nobody's doing it, or, you know, there's no handling.
So what ends up happening is there's the disclaimer on the portal. It will say that there are convenience fees. It will prompt for the convenience fee. And then what you will see is typically with an ACH or a bank transaction, you will see two transactions. You'll see the actual amount of your bill, and then you'll see the $1.25 charge.
That
So-
$1.25 charge goes to a third party. Is that correct?
That goes to Tyler, correct?
Yeah. Oh, no, that I understand. I understand, but I don't agree with it.
Okay.
Because if it's coming directly out of your checking
Disgruntled
account.
customer, how do you handle it, Kelly?
First,
Well,
I'm
who is
happy
gonna
to
pay
speak
for
with you.
Send her an email.
But Bertha,
Or you can call me because I will answer.
Bertha, this is one of those things that CCWD was paying for some of these. Unfortunately, the plan that we have with Tyler, we can't get away from it. And I personally feel it should be the customer's expense, not CCWD's anymore. Now, if there was a different program you use, like I've said it a couple of times, Vanco, it's 50 cents. And then MSD uses it and we absorb that 50 cents. It's cheaper than a stamp for us to, you know, anyhow, I agree that if they want to use that, because otherwise it's mailing in like you've always done. Now, it's unfortunate that they charge for auto pay, because auto pay, to me, there shouldn't be any fee on that. But if you're going to use a credit card and do it yourself, let them pay for the
But
convenience.
it's a debit card that you're using. That's.
Well, you can use a checking account too, but the bottom line, when you're using a debit card or a credit card, we can't control the cost on that card. If it's a card that earns points, the fees are huge to the vendor, which would be us,
Right.
CCWD. So, you know, and they want to use their credit card so they can earn points. Don't you guys do that? I know I do.
You know, I do that. To Bertha's point,
So-
I do understand, avoiding the fees on credit cards, were there historically fees to us if the customer wanted to use their checking account or debit card?
I don't think there was. It was only in Tyler.
Yeah.
So
There is.
Paymentus, I think there
I
was
think there was.
Okay.
fees with Paymentus
Right.
as well, wasn't there?
So we're just passing on.
So
Yeah.
back in 2008, we rescinded the customer paying for the convenience fee, and we absorbed it. So we've been absorbing this fee for
And how much was
14
that
years.
annually? You know, I.
Annually for Paymentus, I believe it was like
one of them anyway.
70 or
I
80.
think it went up after that.
So I think it was
Higher.
80 first, and now it's
Credit cards, yeah.
Credit card.
That was for all those
For
transactions.
all those
fees,
transactions,
Paymentus and whatnot.
for
But
all
there
of
was
those
always, wasn't there always a portion of it that was associated with checking and debit
Correct.
cards too?
Correct.
Okay.
I didn't see that on my,
Because we paid, CCWD paid for it.
well then,
And that was one of those complaints I did every freaking month. It's $80,000, like Russ just said, in 2 years, we could have bought, how many more trucks do you need? There you go.
One
Let's
thing
get that
I,
on the next agenda, 25.
one thing I can speak on, which I'm kind of jumping ahead a little bit to one of the items that I'll be speaking on for the next slide, but several of us internally were able to attend a Encode user group conference down, it was a meeting actually in Clovis. And so we represented finance and customer service and went down there to see if we could gather some more information about the program and the services offered. One of the things that they did speak on is that obviously with our setup that we have right now, you have global payments or OpenEdge, which is our payment, you know, they process the payments for us. And so sometimes these fees are a result of this third party that we're using. Tyler did state that they rolled out, which I was actually familiar with at my last agency, but we didn't end up moving forward with it, is their payment processing option called Tyler Payments. And so they're going to be really kind of more, I guess, working on making that kind of the primary payment processor for this product moving
Is
forward.
that a higher fee or a lower fee to the customer?
They explained that their fees are flexible, but they did not go into detail. So they kind of dangled the carrot and then that was about it. But there are other options is what I'm hearing that we may be able to investigate as we go forward.
Banco.
so
It automatically
let's
goes
just
to-
watch double dipping, okay? Because if they offer that service
Mhm.
and then they charge on the other end for honoring that,
Right.
you know?
Well, absolutely. And we'll have to take a look at whatever, you know, contract and what, you know, whatever verbiage is included in there to make sure that we're, you know, doing what's in the best interest of the district and the customer, obviously. But it does sound like that there may be an additional option here.
The way MSD saves money on this is one, we don't take credit cards anymore.
Mhm.
And on our auto pay, it has to be a checking or a savings account.
Mhm.
And each month, that's a 50-cent charge for each transaction. And when they go on auto pay, we make them go on email billing and we absorb that 50 cents because that's where it's cheaper for us to not spend, what is it, 60 cents now per stamp? Or 58 cents anyway.
And then I'm
But we
sure the
don't do
printing
credit
and the printing charges as well,
Exactly.
right?
So
Mhm.
that's how we save money, but the credit cards is what my complaint was here all the time because you
Right.
can't control those fees.
Sure. And so in regards to the portal, we do have quite a few folks that are using it at this point. Obviously, we'd like to get as many people as possible, you know, creating accounts on the portal, especially as we ramp up to this being the smart portal and there being data available for their consumption. So we've kind of had some preliminary talks about how we might address that going forward. And as we start to get a better timeline for when we will be able to roll out the smart portal side of things where the AMI data is there, We'd like to be able to obviously have a campaign out to our customers to update customer contact information, and then also really encourage them to, create an enrollment on the portal and get themselves ready and prepped for that data to come down to them. But I did just want to share some general statistics with you that as of today, we have 7,344 total members that are on the portal.
That have created an account?
Correct.
Okay.
And then this month, we've had 96 new folks sign up. Last month, we had 86, and this year we have had just shy of 2,400 new members that have joined onto the portal. So we obviously want to keep this momentum going. And like I said, especially considering we'll be rolling out the AMI data into the portal within the coming months. So
On your transaction fees, and it says to avoid them mailing your check, you might want to just put in that little thing saying where to mail it to.
right. No, that's a
I
good
think it's
point.
good, because you can pay a fee
Right.
or mail it in, and here's our address right there.
Perfect.
But I think that's good. Have options.
And hope the
Yeah.
stamps don't go up again.
Oh, I know. I know.
For postal service.
And just
You know,
change
if
it
you
to a
can-
dollar.
Right.
What is pennies at a time? Who's a Canadian that does them?
One of the
Yeah.
things that Tyler does is they enter the payments into your system. So we're paying them that transaction fee to do something that could another customer service member enter those without Tyler doing it. And what I'm wondering is if we could do it for auto pay customers using checks only, and then perhaps absorb the cost for doing that. If we enter it and it's a small 50, 75-cent fee, that would be kind of a nice benefit to the customer, and you get your money.
Sure.
But using checks only, checkers and ACH, no
Mhm.
credit cards.
And, I think a part of this process too, as we move forward, is to constantly make sure we're evaluating the products and services that we have available to everybody and making sure that they're meeting the expectation of, of the customer. And so I think that goes along with evaluating, kind of producing some sort of cost benefit analysis as far as in-house versus, this external entity. So I think that should just be a regular part of what we're doing in there. And obviously is a goal of ours, and we'll maintain that going forward. So we're having those talks. Mhm.
A couple questions.
Oh,
How long have we've been dealing with this for a couple of years now? I remember Springbrook, was represented to the board as being something we had to consider getting rid of. I don't think we're rid of it yet, are we? Are we still?
No, we're still operating in it on the financial
Okay.
side.
Everybody went into this with good intentions. I mean, and up to and including AMI and I don't know, were we sold a bill of goods or just?
No, it's going to be a fantastic project.
Hmm?
It's going to be a fantastic.
Well, I know it's going to be a fantastic project, but as a board member, one board member, I can't speak for anybody else, but it was supposed to be easy. This is going to be great and it's going to be easy. But
Any conversion.
But hear me out. I just wonder if at some point in time, whether it would be beneficial for this board and for future boards, if we did a little debrief on how, if we had 2020 vision into the future, what decisions we might have delayed or made a little differently. I think I for one, would like to see that, not pointing any fingers at anybody or any particular company, but there should be a learning lesson in this.
Oh, there's a lot. Yeah, absolutely.
And one of those lessons, and I have asked for something like this, but at least the board or future boards, 20 years from now, when they're brought with, hey, we want to change systems, they would know the questions to ask.
And actually, I had a similar discussion with a GM from a different agency who's considering going through this and wanted to talk to us about our lessons learned, because there have been a lot of lessons learned. But to back up a little bit, we were under no illusions that this was going to be easy. We knew going into it, this was going to be, both of these projects are very difficult projects, and they're difficult to get them to integrate, even if you're doing one or the other. So there was no illusion about that. And it has been very difficult. There have been a lot of challenges and I think we're still working through those challenges. But at the end of the road or at the end of the process, I think we're a little bit further along. We would always do that internally, you know, at the staff level. But we can have that discussion with the board, absolutely.
Well, there's things that raise their ugly head, like, what was it, $60,000 for a new or a replacement server because the server that we had wouldn't continue to be utilized, or it was not compatible with a new modified Springbrook. I don't know. It just seems like to me that we owe it to ourselves to analyze what.
Oh, absolutely. And like I said, we do that. We do it on an ongoing basis. We'll do it when the projects are complete. It wasn't $60,000. It was, but there was some expense there. But yeah, absolutely, we can bring.
When can we put it on the agenda?
I think we
February?
should wait until we're a little farther down the road.
I think you'll do it like November 9th.
Because Jeff won't be here.
I'll be.
Perfect. Well, we
Uh,
can make a special workshop for those who want to attend, Jeff.
Yeah,
Ad
absolutely.
hoc committee.
I look
That's it.
forward to it.
I'm good with that too.
I look
Michael
forward to
says it's a good idea. Do you think there's merit in? having that
Absolutely.
discussion?
Having gone through these implementations before at past agencies, I can tell you that they're not a walk in the park.
Correct.
You know, and again, there's a lot of things that come into play and each implementation is slightly different. You know, what you're trying to achieve from it and then the process that you're trying to follow. So I only think it's natural that we have these conversations and we ultimately, you know, figure out where we could have done things a little bit differently and just be prepared for the next go round because we're going to have this happen again sooner than
And whether
we
it's
anticipate.
customer service, but there are some lessons to take that will go with other implementation. projects.
Absolutely.
Do we want an ad hoc committee?
Michael mentioned that he got a telephone call from somebody making an inquiry. There's bound to be future calls too. So let's make a notebook and say, oh yeah, look at item 3 on page 4. Avoid this at all costs.
Yeah.
I have one final question here about this customer service projects, the thing on the last page.
Yes.
I'm puzzled about why there would still be 43 spots remaining on the customer assistance side of water and 71 available for wastewater.
So this is something actually that we just recently, for lack of better words, evaluated and re-upped. So annually, we should be looking at this program and we should be sending out notifications to customers. I think through COVID, this was one of those things where we kept folks where they were. And then we were able this year to have bandwidth to really go in and ask that the participants send us their qualifying documents so we can make sure that they are still eligible. We had a wait list as well. We had folks that were waiting. And so we wanted to make sure that we were doing our due diligence by the policy and really trying to get back into doing this as an annual, evaluation, which it should be. And so we did that actually just a couple of months ago. We were able to, quite a few folks reached out and got themselves back onto the program. But we do have availability at this point.
Do they have to re-up each year? Is it an
Yeah.
annual?
Per the policy, it's an annual
Okay.
re-up, yes.
And what about the waiting list? Have they been contacted?
Yes.
Okay,
Mhm.
so you're just waiting on their applications.
So we're waiting and many of those folks who were on the wait list were able to successfully enter the program at this point because we
Nice.
did have customers that were previously on the program that did not send in their qualifying documents. Not to say that they won't, we still have availability. So information about the customer assistance program is on our website as well. And
Yeah. Did you give them enough time for those who are on it that you were requesting the information? They had 2 months?
yes, 2 months.
Okay,
Mhm.
okay.
So we did provide
Send
them a
them
letter asking them to renew. And then we also sent them a letter 2 months later, letting them know that unfortunately, because we had not received documentation, there's been removal, but here is how you get yourself back onto the program. So that will be the annual, process that we follow for this.
Excuse me, are we still not charging a late charge?
That is correct. We are currently not charging any penalties. We have not moved to shutoffs for non-payment at this time either, but it is something that we're needing to do within the near future and something that we need to make sure is dialed in completely within our billing software.
We're not doing it because of the software?
No.
We initially stopped because of the
COVID
COVID
and
moratorium on it, and we just haven't restarted it since.
So it's not a software problem, is that correct?
Well, we need to, we've been prioritizing resolving some of these other issues before we add that back on to it.
Why would that be such a hard thing to add back on?
There
Not
are
that I want it to be.
software issues that we need to
Okay.
resolve.
Right.
We haven't done it
Thank
with
you.
the new system yet, so we need to
So I
work.
just heard you say there is a software issue
There are.
with Tyler or Springbrook. You're still using Springbrook.
No, we're not
No,
using
not for
Springbrook for
utility billing.
billing, for utility billing. We're using Tyler for that.
Okay.
Oh,
yes,
One of the,
Springbrook is
one of the other contributing factors too, which is something that I experienced at City of Pleasanton when I was there, we did the same thing. We went through simultaneous implementations of our AMI and our billing software. So I do feel like I'm reliving
The nightmare.
much of a.
And you came here anyway?
I did. I just love it up here. But one of the things that we did have to do in Pleasanton as well is we had to refrain from penalizing and shutting off for non-payment because we needed to make sure that the AMI data that was coming in was accurate, that the portal was up and running, that payments were being processed efficiently, that we were meeting all expectations internally before we started saying, hey, customers, we're going to penalize you for this and shut you off for this. We wanted to be 100% sure that we had all of our ducks in a row before we started implementing that. So I think we're at that point as well, and obviously needing to make sure that it's fully built within the Tyler system as well.
Go ahead.
When you mentioned the required paperwork for this customer assistance program, as I recall, the kind of the initial door that the applicant had to go through was to prove that they were already on the PG&E customer assistance.
Right, PG&E Care Program.
That's still required for our customers.
Right, that's still a mechanism of approval. If they're not able to provide that, we also look for any documentation that would say that they are at or below 200% poverty level.
I thought we were using ACCA at one point, wasn't it?
Or
ACCA?
or eligibility for resource
For
connection.
resource
A
connection,
couple of different
it's
ways to
resource
establish
connection. Mhm.
eligibility.
Right,
Well,
So we
anybody-
don't direct them there.
But anybody on this
Right.
board
Right.
would qualify under that 200% below.
No, the poverty level. is too-
Huh?
The poverty level is-
I haven't retired yet, but I
I'm
know that's
retired,
gonna
but you're not retired yet.
happen. Soon.
Russ, you can call me too if you'd like.
Okay.
We can chat. No, but there's a couple different ways that people would qualify for this, so. But we've had pretty successful program participation over the last couple of years, and we look forward to continuing that. And obviously maintaining it through non-rate revenues, so just want
I
to.
think it's a good deal too.
Yes, absolutely. I agree. So yeah, just to kind of close up, we're still plugging away at the AMI project. We were able to attend that user group meeting. We had great networking opportunities there and made contact with several other agencies that we plan on speaking with about their use of the Tyler product as well. So
On this AMI cleanup, we're not being billed for any of that, right? That's still under all contract stuff?
a lot of that data cleanup is happening in-house.
Oh, okay.
Yes. We are obviously still working alongside
We haven't closed the
Mueller
project.
and, yeah, it's still ongoing at this point, but we are absolutely doing our due diligence in-house to make sure the data is clean.
Cool.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank.
Great to see you all.
Wait, we have a public comment over here. Go for it.
No weapons in here, Ralph.
Do you know, do you know Ralph Copeland? Catherine?
I got a question regarding the billing. We're on auto pay, but I still get a bill each month that says I'm on auto pay, and I get an envelope with it too to mail in my auto pay that's already auto paid. So I'm curious why I get a bill, or do I have to sign a paperless thing too?
We
Oh, that would make sense.
We can absolutely have you sign up for paperless.
Okay, so when you sign up for auto pay, you're automatically not paperless?
Well, when you sign up for auto pay, it depends on your preference that you choose. So
I
if you.
think on credit card for points.
Okay, so on the portal, you can actually choose whether or not you would like to still receive a paper bill or if you would like to be paperless. So we're happy to do that for you.
I will.
Take care of that.
Yeah.
He'll take care of that.
Thank you, Kelly. I was calling you, Kelly. All right, thank you. Great report. And now we're moving on to general manager's report.
Okay, I'll try to move through it quickly.
We heard that before.
I know, right? That's my standard intro, regardless of the length of the list in front of me. I like to keep it guessing. I think, first of all, I just want to, I thought the water, wildfire and wine event last week was fantastic. It was great to see most of you there. Damon knocked it out of the park with his panel, scared the crap out of a lot of people, but appropriately so. It's issues that we should be prioritizing and afraid of. And it was, remarkably well attended. Some of the feedback I got from Aqua so far is one of the lessons learned for them internally is to put the word wine in the title, and maybe they'll sell out their other events as well. So may see more of those. But it was just a great event.
How was your cocktail?
I thought it was great. I think a lot of people were going back for more. So the Calaveras Gold Rush, I think, was a hit. It was a fun opportunity to promote Hinter House. It was great to see Congressman McClintock there to chime in, and
He did a short presentation.
a short speech.
It was
Overall, I thought it was all a success, and it was good fun too. Hopefully.
Yeah, it was.
So, the next day there was a Mountain Counties Water Resources Association board meeting where I suppose because of the location, they invited me to give a presentation on CCWD, and was grateful for that opportunity. They had a good discussion with the Mountain Counties board, so yeah, it kind of continued on in Murphy's over to the next day. One of the things I heard from a lot of people who had come from all over the place was they had never even heard of Murphy's, but they were going to bring their families and come back because they loved it. So it was a good opportunity to promote Calaveras County. We had Finance Committee on Monday. Appreciate the committee members being flexible in scheduling. We had a good meeting. We are looking forward to Engineering Committee. Gosh, is that next week? Wow. Where we'll have a lot of detailed updates and just a tremendous amount of construction that's going on. So there'll be some good discussion at that meeting. We had last week a couple of days of a writing seminar, which I get nerdily excited about. But most of our management team, and then we also invited others from other agencies to come in to help cover the cost of it. There's a 2-day workshop on policy, procedure, and task outline writing. Really valuable time spent, I think. So we're already talking about ways. I think you'll see the improvement over time as we implement some of what we learned. We had a site meeting in West Point with Greg Stengel from Phoenix Energy and our engineering and operations staff. Really productive meeting. There'll be more to follow on that. I think at some point in the near future here, we'll have Greg at one of these board meetings to talk about the opportunities that we're pursuing to connect those two projects, our wastewater project that's already under construction now, and the biomass power plant that's going to move in next door. There's a lot of exciting potential interconnections between those projects that we're pursuing. So we'll be hearing more about that shortly, and we'll get Greg hopefully next time he's up here we'll try to do it on a Wednesday, and he can come talk to the whole board.
Did you discuss the sauna?
Not until after Thursday. I didn't realize that was one of the options, but now that we know that it is, yeah, I'm sure that's not lost on ops staff. We need a sauna.
No hot tubs. Yeah.
That's right. Apparently no hot tubs.
Maybe we can have a public hearing about and talk about the sauna project. That's fine.
Absolutely. I'm sure there'll be some social media chatter.
One second.
A couple of, right. Are you hitting send? Yeah. Yeah, right. Rate revenue funded project. It'll be great. No. I've had a couple of good meetings with UPUD as well. As the board knows, we're using the slurry line with one customer already. There's other interest within their service territory, which requires obviously negotiation with UPUD. Summer's been very, very responsive. She's great to work with. I went to their board meeting 2 weeks ago, or was that last week? Last week, gosh, it was a long week.
I think it was.
And they're supportive of it as well. We don't know exactly what shape that's going to take yet, whether it's a wholesale water supply agreement or something else. But it's something that we're going to work on and bring back. It'll come before this board before too long. I'll finish with the bad news, I guess. I'll put that towards the end. Speaking of training, I'll be out the second half of next week. I'll be working, but I'll be in Roseville for a JPIA leadership seminar, kicking off a year-long process with JPIA. Quick update on copper. There's an outage tomorrow night. Repairs between 9 and midnight. Probably should have mentioned this when half the town was here and made sure people are aware. There's been a ton of public outreach already, so I think the word is already out.
That's correct.
Yeah. It affects quite a few customers. Bridlewood, La Cobra Mina, Copper Meadows, Copper Hills, and Cosmic Court, all of those customers will be affected. We'll get it done as quickly as we can, but I think we're conservatively saying 3 hours. So it's a pretty broad.
You said 9 till midnight?
Yeah, we're doing it at night. Hopefully there's not as big of an impact. The bad news is it seems like I should just stop going to CPPA board meetings.
Oh, yeah.
As the board knows, the rates went up 60% from last fiscal year to this fiscal year. The staff presentation to the CPPA board last week said that they will be back in January with another proposed additional 30% rate increase that would go into effect in January, not waiting for the fiscal year. That will result in a doubling of the rate of our electricity rate from last year to this year. So that's something that we're gonna just have to continue to adjust and adapt to, and it's going to affect every public agency in Calaveras County.
And that's
We
in
looked in-
January, they expect it?
Yeah.
How far are we into looking into solar? Where's that
Still,
project?
right now, we're still half the PG&E commercial rate. As this continues to increase, we'll investigate those opportunities further, and including a direct connection potentially for our facilities that are located right next to the biomass power plant in West Point, where we may be able to get cheaper power, which was just never possible before because of the CPPA rate.
Is that CPPA rate, you said it's 50% cheaper, that's today's rate, it won't include what happens in January? Is
Right,
that
so we'll be
correct?
cutting into that if it goes up again. Although PG&E rates will go up again too, so.
Oh, yeah.
So when I asked the question before about whether we would have power available from that facility, the answer was no, but I thought it was because of some restriction against it. It's just an economic analysis that would.
Yeah, so that's evolving, and so we may be able to. So it has to be. It's generally frowned upon. PG&E and the other utilities don't like direct connection to generation, but because our facilities are basically co-located, as long as it's an adjacent parcel, there is an opportunity to do that. And it actually now, because as CPPA rates continue to go up, the biomass rate that the biomass power plant is going to be selling their power to PG&E is a fixed rate for 20 years. And as this rate increase if it goes into effect in January, we'll be approaching that rate. We'll be at 18 cents kilowatt hour there at 19.9. But it won't be long before the CPPA rate overtakes that and theirs remains constant. So we're at a point where it may make sense to connect directly to that facility.
And it wouldn't be subject to a PSPS.
It depends, and this is something I want to explore with Greg. It depends on whether the plant will be offline during a PSPS event or not. And with the hydro plants, I know they're offline. You can't connect, you can't export to the grid during a PSPS event, so they trip the plants off. I don't know if with biomass, if that is true as well, or if they can isolate from the grid and still deliver to on-site load. That's something we'll still have to explore, but if it's connected to the grid, it will not be able to generate.
Well, I don't have a skirt on, so.
What are you guys doing down there? All right, is that it, Michael?
That's it.
Thank you. Great report. All right, so we're moving on to board reports and I'll start with Russ because Bertha has some going on down there.
What? I want to echo what Michael said about the, what it was, wine, women and water.
Whiskey.
Whiskey.
Wine,
Oh, that's
wild
right.
women and.
Wild women. Fiery women. No, that was a great event.
Sure
And my compliments to the folks, the owners of the Murphy's Hotel. They sort of knocked it out of the park too with their hors d'oeuvres and their facilities there. They're always really very enjoyable. But that's
Okay.
that concludes my report for
Nice, all
today.
right. Jeff, what about you?
I have nothing to report.
All right, Scott,
I have nothing.
Bertha,
Oh, okay, my turn.
there you go.
No, I want to say how much I enjoyed, the entire conference on Thursday and then the little reception. And we know how well it was received by Dave Egerton because he took off his jacket. I mean, he really got down and
Pulled up the
enjoyed
sleeves and everything. Yeah.
the happy hour. Everything's pretty quiet and it is very, very quiet. I guess we're at the shoulder right now. But anyway, one of the things that I picked up that came in the mail was the Calaveras Consolidated Fire Protection District fact sheet. Has anyone seen this one?
I believe that's the Valley Springs.
Yeah, it is in,
Came in your mail?
who is it? It's Jenny Lind. And anyway, they cover 168 square miles with 4 firefighters and 2 fire stations, but this was very impressive. I think, gets a lot of it. Give it to, what's his name up the hill, so he might copy that.
Good advertising, is that what I hear?
But it was really very well made. And that's it.
I actually do have one last thing. I'm sorry I forgot. It's very quick. It's very quick. I just want to make sure to mention, we had a meeting in Valley Springs on Monday, was that Monday night? With our irrigation users down there. Director Davidson was there. I thought it was, small group of people, but it's an important group of people for us and for the county. Brad did a phenomenal job with a presentation, kind of laying out our New Hogan water use and opportunities that we have down there. So I wanted to make note of that as well. That was.
Yeah, I should have mentioned that, but yeah, him and Alvin both had a great presentation.
Yeah. Right. There was
Michael,
Brad's planned presentation and Alvin's unplanned but expected presentation.
If you have a
Who's Al?
presentation on that, that could be sent to us. That'd be kind of cool.
Sure.
You
Yeah.
know,
Let's
It'd be helpful
have
for me anyway.
email out that presentation. Sure.
And then for me, I also attended the Aqua event Murphy's and it was great and got to see a lot of people I haven't seen for a long time. And I actually had several takeaways. So it was a nice learning. So, all righty. So the next board meetings is going to be one, right? Just November 9th, and we've canceled the meeting on the 23rd. And now we're going to go into closed session. Do we need a little recess or anything?
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great weekend
Uh-huh.
and see you in a couple weeks, give or take. Okay. All right. I'm sorry, what? Oh, gotcha. All right.
All right. So we're going to be going into closed session, conference with legal counsel, potential litigation. Do we have any public comment? Seeing none. Thank you, Rebecca.